So thanks for joining. Thanks everyone for joining us today. So I'm Megan Fox. I'm with Malama Kaua'i, here to talk about our Kaua'i Farm to ECE project. This was a project funded in part by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Farm to School program and also Johnson Ohana Foundation. So it's going to be about a year. We just started everything up in July and we'll be running through June of next year. And I also have with us today Christy, who's going to share some really fun ideas of farm to school activities that are happening on other islands, just so you can kind of see what's out there. So today, real quickly, we're going to try and move through this. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, or we'll also open up the floor for questions and answers throughout the presentation. So we'll talk about a little bit about us in this project, and it has three core elements of our project: family food access and engagement, local food procurement support, and then our mini grant program. And then Christy's going to jump in and talk about some other resources and project ideas. So most of you, I think, are familiar with Malama Kaua'i and the work that we do. Here's a rundown of some of the different farm to school work that we've done. Primarily in the past 12 years or so, or 10 years or so, that we've really been into farm to school, and most recently trying to connect our food hub work to farm to school and resolve some of our food access issues that are happening. So I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Haley Molnar and I'm a program coordinator with Malama Kaua'i. And for this Farm to EC project, I will be kind of the main point person, more for that face-to-face interactions as far as organizing those CSA pickups on campus, and also discussing procurement needs with the school meal program staff. If that's applicable, if there is a meal program established, then we'll work on how we can get more of that local food into those meals and snacks.
Awesome. Aloha everyone, my name is Stormy Souza. I've been working as a marketing and outreach specialist with Malama Kaua'i, and then also farm to school coordinator. I'll be helping with our CSA cooking show that we'll be doing for our makua or parents and for families that use our CSA produce bags, and then just helping the team with all the things. Aloha.
And then we also have Lana Bilbo, who's also a program coordinator, and she'll be more on the tech side. So any issues that parents might have or any school staff might have as far as ordering on the website, Lana will be your main point of contact for that. For example, if you're having issues with, you're trying to add items into your cart, but maybe they're not loading in there correctly, that will be your main point of contact for any technical issues for ordering.
And then Annie and I are the paperwork pushers. You probably won't see or hear from us too often. Annie, do you want to say hi?
Hello.
She's also a radio DJ, so she's up at the KKCR station today. So a little bit about farm to school. So this graphic is really just about farm to school at the national level. These are really their three focus areas, but I wanted to also talk about our three focus areas because they are a little bit different. We're really focused on in this program, family food access and education, procurement support for schools, and then the mini grant program. And the mini grant program really can be used for any of these things. Whether you want to do education, procurement, school garden type activities at your center. So the family engagement component, most of you are probably aware we do CSA distributions across the island. It's malamakaua'i.store, and we have pickup locations across the island every Thursday. We also do home delivery. And what we're offering here is that if your CSA site, if your ECE site wants to be a CSA pickup site so that parents, it makes it really convenient if they're already picking up their child, they can pick up their bag from the center too. And right now we do accept $1, so our produce bags are 50% off. So you get a very, very large bag of, you know, all kinds of vegetables and some fruit in there for only $12.50. And we are going to be the first site for Kaua'i that will be able to accept WIC. And we're hoping it happens before the end of the year, but we're really kind of, you know, excited about that and about being able to offer that for families. And then once the families get their bags, we want to make sure they know what to do with them. They have questions answered. Some people might not be familiar with some of the products that they see in their CSA bags. So we're actually going to be hosting a bi-weekly Zoom cooking class, and Stormy and then Whitney, who's pictured here, are going to be our hosts. And you know, they'll be able to answer questions. They're going to be highlighting keiki-friendly recipes, talk story. So that should be a really fun way to have your families get engaged, and also you if you're interested in getting more ideas for your school too. So Haley's the point of contact, kind of engage in on that if you want to organize something, if you have questions about it. And then we also have lots of marketing materials, so we'll kind of support you in that outreach. And the piece behind that really is if kids are eating more fruits and vegetables at home, they're going to eat more fruits and vegetables when they're in your center. They're going to be more comfortable with them. And, you know, family engagement, we feel, is just a really important piece of that too. And then we mentioned a lot about local procurement. So we have a commercial aggregation distribution site that is launching in September. And we're really kind of doing something special for ECEs where we have, you know, almost next to no markup or markups reduced. You don't have to have a minimum order size. You know, if you want a bag of carrots, we're going to drop you a bag of carrots. And then there's no delivery fee either. So you're going to get free delivery. We're really just trying to make food easily accessible to you, local food. So if that is something that you're interested in exploring for your meal programs, your snack programs, we might even be able to start working on through this next year some more prepared snacks. I know some of the schools, you know, you don't have the facility to be able to even make your own food. So, you know, we're really open to it, exploring possibilities. We have some cool poi parfaits and different things that, you know, might be available and interesting to you. So Haley, again, is the contact point for that one. And then Stormy is going to be working on our recipes. So she has a recipe team. We're working with UH Nutrition Department. And there's a few different ways that we're going to look at this. One is food cost analyzing for affordability. We know you guys get very, very little reimbursement or have very small budgets for food. So we don't want to create these recipes around very expensive items, you know, that you're not going to be able to really buy in on a regular basis. So as we start our commercial aggregation distribution, we're going to start cost analyzing and finding, you know, what are the most affordable fruits and vegetables that you could buy on a budget, and really helping to build some menu and snack ideas around those items so that you can, you know, better be able to incorporate them realistically into your menus and meal programs. And then, so part of that, if you guys, anyone there does have a CACFP recipe, or maybe you just have a really great recipe that, you know, you have that incorporates local produce in any way, if you want to share it with us, we'd love to share it with other ECEs. We're going to target making a recipe book by the end of the project. So that'll be downloadable and available. So you have all different meal program types, different types of fruits and vegetables highlighted. We'll give you credit for it. We're not trying to say we made it. It's really just a great way to be able to share with other ECEs, not only on the island, but across the state that might read this book, that, that you can share that with, because everyone can use a little help in this area. And so, yeah, if you do have anything, please email Stormy. And then kind of the final element we have is our mini grant program. I know it's an awkward amount, $926 is what we have in that program. There'll be 5 grants given out, and it's really for any kind of project supplies, needs that you have in order to do more farm to school on your own. We didn't want to tell you what to do. We wanted to see what you wanted to do, you know, and help support that. So whether it's a school garden, cooking and tasting activities. I know some facilities can get around not preparing, you know, food for meals, but if it's an activity, sometimes you're able to. Kitchen equipment is another thing. So I put a couple examples here of some cool projects. Like maybe you really want to incorporate smoothies into your meal and snack programs, like getting a blender, getting cups and reusable straws. You know, another one, you can have garden meal program and tasting. You know, there's really lots of different ways you could utilize the funds, and Christy's hopefully going to get you guys excited with some cute projects other schools have done. And this is just our application timeline and our evaluation model. Just so you know, we should be releasing it in September, and then applications in November, but you'll actually have about 4 months to complete your project. So it'll happen early 2022. We'll make awards in December, you know, and then you get started 2022 in that first kind of half of the year there. And then you'll have about a month to do reporting. We're gonna make reporting super easy for you. You know, we write grants, we report on grants. We know paperwork is not anybody's favorite thing to do. We're gonna make it a 1-pager. It's gonna be really easy. And then in terms of how we're gonna evaluate those grants, this was the evaluation model that was sent in with DOE, with the USDA. So it's really gonna be based on how engaged you are in farm to ECE and this project overall. You know, are you doing CACFP meals? Are your students especially in need? I think that's really important. Do your families participate in the CSA program? Are they engaged at that level? And also just really looking at your project activities, your budget, and what kind of difference it's gonna make in your school. So before we go on to the outside resources and ideas, I wanted to just check in and see if anyone had questions about any of those 3 elements of our project. Christy.
Hey, Megan, I just thought about if people have recipes, would they be able to submit it? And then would you be able to help with making it CACFP compliant?
Yeah, I think that's doable. I mean, as long as we can't promise to doing thousands of them, but we have a nutrition intern. We've had some interest for some other people, so that's quite possible. Stormy and I are testing on our little guys, so we have a nice focus group to make sure they're delicious.
Yes, and he's very picky, so we have good test subject.
Any other questions? Okay, well, so outside of our project, I just want to make sure everyone knew about these other resources. Kaua'i Foundation is great, and they have a grant program as well that's available for ECEs. And that one could be matched funding. You know, you could apply for one of our grants and one of their grants. I know for some of the larger schools, $1,000 might not seem like a lot, but if it's $2,000 and you get 2 grants, you can do a lot more. And we're willing to kind of help point you there if you have any questions about their application. It's a really great program. They do it every school year. We also have our School Garden Network and Farm to School newsletter. We send that out at least every quarter, and that's filled with up-to-date grants, trainings, resources. So you definitely want to sign up for that. If you have a DOE email, use a personal email. For some reason, the DOE Notes 12K emails have a lot of, get kicked back a lot of the time. So you want to use a different one. We also have a Facebook group too that we kind of post really last minute relevant stuff that we might not have time to get out through our newsletter. We'll post on our Facebook, and so it might be little grants and projects and trainings pop up on there too. And that one's called Kaua'i School Garden Network on Facebook. There's also the Ulu Toolkit, which is all about breadfruit, Hawaiian Harvest, which has lots of great information that goes crop by crop with different fruits and vegetables. And then some curriculum most of you guys are probably familiar with. There's Life Lab, and then there's Farm to Keiki, which was developed here on Kaua'i. So
Can I jump in really quick? I wanted to mention that the Kokua Hawaii Foundation, they do offer $200 for project grants. They also offer $200 for field trip grants too. So you can apply for both a field trip grant and a project grant. And right now I know field trips are on hold for early learning programs, but that is a possibility too. So even if you're applying for their project grant, you can apply to go on a field trip to supplement that and support that.
So that's Christy. Christy is the state lead for the Hawaii Farm to ECE Hui. So she helps lead the state Hawaii Farm to Schools ECE group. And Christy, I'll let you kind of take it away.
Thank you so much, Megan, for inviting me. So I currently work at Chaminade University. I'm the administrator at the lab school on campus. I serve as a practicum site for the education program here at the university. I also serve as a cooperating teacher and a university student teaching supervisor. I've taught for many, many, many years, more than I would like to admit to. I've done professional development for Head Start here on Oahu, for Rainbow Schools, for Seagull Schools, and a couple other private early learning programs. I did include my information at the bottom. If you have any questions about curriculum or ways to integrate things in the classroom, feel free to reach out to me. If I don't have an answer, probably my teachers do here. So I just wanted to share a couple of examples of schools that I've worked with. And I tried to choose a variety of examples of things that teachers have been able to do. So this first one is Aiea Elementary's Head Start. They actually had 3 classrooms on this site. And all 3 classrooms agreed to create a community garden. What they did though was they created a garden outdoors, and then they also brought their garden indoors so that the children could identify all of the parts of the garden and where all of the plants grow. I really liked that they included the insects and the pollinators as being an important part of their garden and recognizing that. I also really liked that the small inset on the bottom left corner, they did show that seeds go under the ground. They showed that carrots grow under the ground and then the tops grow above ground because the children can't really see what's happening in the soil. This was a really concrete example of what was actually happening in their garden outdoors. We move to the next one. This one was a Head Start program, actually out on the Leeward Coast. And they did not have access to create a garden in an outdoor space that would be protected when they were not there. And so the teachers were really creative with how they started introducing Farm to ECE. And they basically just started with plants and trees, just asking the children what's a tree. What I really, really liked though about this class is that the teacher was able to really integrate their study into all parts of the classroom. They integrated with their families at home. It's hard to see in the photo, but that big tree that they created at the entrance of their class was actually their family tree. So each leaf, each family was able to create a leaf for their tree, and it showed all of their families, whether it was their immediate family or all the way through to their extended family. And then they actually did some recycled art, and that's actually what you see on the left-hand side. So they created different kinds of trees, and these two children chose coconut trees. And so they were able to look at writing and literacy. They looked at math and measuring how tall coconut trees could be. And then what the teachers did was they brought in products that are made from coconuts so that children could see that it's more than just a tree, it's food, it was shelter, it was everything actually, which is why it was such an important plant. And then the last slide that I have is actually our own school here. And coming here, for me, it was really trying to show what's possible in early learning. So we purchased our snack through a weekly CSA. And it's definitely an initiative that we support in trying to incorporate locally grown fresh produce. And a lot of it is things that our children have never seen before. When we first started it, it was interesting to watch the children's faces, especially if it was something that they've never seen. The picture here shows a child trying to peel a rambutan, and they didn't know that you had to peel it to eat it. Somebody tried to eat it without peeling it first and realized that it really didn't taste very delicious. And so incorporating things like that really helped us to understand that it's through these experiences that children are able to still practice those fine motor skills in learning how to peel something. That it wasn't extra work to try and incorporate these kinds of projects in to the classroom and to what they were already doing. So we're fortunate enough to have been able to have a very abundant garden here on site. So we do a lot of planting. We do a lot of food preparation and tasting, and engaging families, especially at this age, is so important. This is probably the best time to try and engage families because there's so much engagement around, not just in their family, but out in their extended community. So we did grow a huge squash, and we cut it up, and we tasked all of the families with cooking something with the squash and taking a picture of it and sharing the recipe, so that we made our own classroom recipe book, our squash book. We also really try to look at the things that we're doing to support their children's development too. So we did grow carrots. We ended up chopping up the tops to taste it first. That wasn't as big of a hit as the carrot itself. And we ended up snipping it into tiny pieces to add to our worm bin and our compost pile. And then introducing different kitchen utensils. They did chop the carrots with a knife. We have a mandolin in our classroom. So they did practice with the mandolin, and we ended up using our carrots and daikon that we grew to make a miso soup for a snack one day. And then on the curriculum side is really the bottom right picture shows one of our students. And for that, it was just a classification of what plant parts do we eat, because children didn't know that you can actually eat the tops of a carrot or the tops of the beets and the daikon. And so understanding that you eat leaves, you eat flowers, you eat seeds, you eat all parts of a plant. So we really want our children to understand also where their food comes from. We also, with our CSA, take a look at the map and are able to show them what part of the island their food was grown on. Sometimes, because on Oahu, we don't have as many farms that can support us, sometimes we do have to have snack that's grown somewhere else. and looking at how far away that food has to travel in order to get to us. And just helping children to understand the impact of the choices that they make. And being able to share that with the families is super important too.
Christy, I wonder if you can share some of the adaptations you've had to make with some of the remote challenges, you know, that schools have experienced the last year.
So I'll admit that we had a student who ended up testing positive for COVID. So we did have to quarantine some of our students. And because I do purchase our snack through a CSA, I have to plan ahead. And what we did was we sent our snack home. We ordered dragon fruit for snack. And because some children had to quarantine, we did a Zoom morning circle. And we had some children at school and some children who were learning from home. And we were able to still have the children prepare their own snack, whether they were at school or at home, because we sent home everything that they needed. And I think the biggest takeaway that came out of it, not just for us, but for the families, was to see what's possible with their children. A lot of times, parents don't want their children to use a knife, or they don't want them to use equipment because it might not be safe. But really showing them the things that are possible and giving children the time and the space to actually do it. It's just, I think it's just a different shift in mindset versus looking at something that's dangerous and really showing a child how to be safe with it instead. That actually, I have to give my teachers the most credit for that. Because they do all of that planning, and for them to have the foresight to be able to have everything ready to go and be able to work with the children remotely and here at school, and then being able to still share the information with families is, they're doing way more than I could have ever probably done as a teacher.
I'm really impressed by the mandolin. I've lost some fingertips and knuckles over the years.
And you know, a lot of it is learning small tips. Like we use shelf liner underneath it so it doesn't slip.
Awesome.
And so it's just really finding those tricks and those tips that can make it successful for the children.
And do you buy special knives for them for cutting their foods and things?
No. So we start with
knives.
Disposable plastic knives. We have different kinds of utensils for cutting. We do also have real knives, paring knives that the children do use. And it is a gradual process, getting them accustomed and building the skills that they need. But sometimes I feel if you're giving them a knife that's not sharp enough, it's more dangerous than trying to have them cut through something that's obviously going to be super difficult with a plastic knife. So it really depends. And I think it's definitely a process for teachers. You have to know your children well if they have the motor control to be able to handle different kitchen utensils. And, you know, we do make sure that a teacher is there if the children are using it. But we do encourage families to do the same thing at home. And so a lot of what we do in the classroom is educating the parents as much as it is the children.
That's great. So does anyone have any questions for Christy or any final questions in general? Nothing. All right, well, we'll wrap up then. I have our contact information here. Haley's the primary point of contact for the program for schools. So you can always reach out to her. That's her email there. She's also available at extension 25. on our main line, which is 828-0685. And this is Christy's information in case you have any questions for her. So I'm glad we did not take up too much of your time tonight, and I really appreciate you guys for making the time.